When it comes to quadcopters, the DJI Phantom series has always been one of the most talked about names. Well, they've just recently released the Phantom 4, and guess what? We think it may be the best consumer quadcopter on the market right now. If you're not familiar with quadcopters, then here's a quick refresher. Quadcopters, which are commonly referred to as drones or UAVs, refer to consumer flying aircrafts for recreational purposes. There are two main types: slower, stable ones like the Phantom series, designed for epic camera footage, and faster, more nimble ones designed for racing. The Phantom 4 falls into the first category, but don't get the wrong idea, it's not slow. In fact, it's the fastest Phantom so far, with a top speed of 44 miles per hour or 72 kilometers per hour in sport mode. It's also the smartest one so far as well, with 2 obstacle sensors in the front and 4 vision positioning sensors on the bottom. While you won't be racing this drone, you will be using it as a tool to capture photographs and videos from perspectives that were previously impossible without actually hiring a helicopter, which would also be quite expensive. And even then, this little thing fits into a lot more places than a full-size helicopter could. We'll show you what we mean in a little bit, but first, let's start off with a tour of the quadcopter. The first thing you notice is the actual packaging it comes in. It's a nice surface-treated foam box that has a sturdy handle, locks closed, carries the quadcopter, extra blades, the charger battery, and all the various cables you need. If you're serious about filming in remote locations though, you'll still want to invest in a backpack since it's a bit awkward hiking with this thing. The Phantom 4 itself is powered by 4 motors with 4 blades on top. All of the computers and sensors and gyroscopes are hidden inside the tough plastic shell, and it all sits on 2 sets of non-retractable landing gear. Everything is powered by a new 5350 mAh battery that offers up to 28 minutes of flight time and is more compact than the previous battery. Sitting underneath the Phantom 4 is one of the main reasons why this quadcopter is so amazing: the camera. It's a 3-way gimbal stabilized camera that shoots up to 30 frames per second at 4K resolution. It records straight to regular micro SD cards, and while they recommend UHS 1 speed cards, we had no problems using one at slow as class 10. The controller is the same one as the Phantom 3, which is a good thing. Instead of some stupid Bluetooth or Wi-Fi connection, you can simply plug in your phone or tablet. This both minimizes the latency and can also keep charging your device. One little issue we ran into was the lack of an HDMI output. If you ever want to share a live feed of the drone, you will need to purchase a separate HDMI output module. But that should change soon, as there are rumors that you will be able to live stream footage from your drone straight to Facebook. The outer shell is pretty reminiscent of the Phantom 3, but with the exception of 2 very important updates. The first one is the ventilation. There are no more air vents on the top of the drone. All the cooling has been moved to the underside, which help protect the drone in case it ever starts raining or something splashes on top. While the Phantom 4 is somewhat water resistant, it is by no means waterproof. We do not recommend flying it in the rain. Seriously, don't do it. The second big change is the blades. While they look similar, they use a brand new quick release system that is much better than before. In the past, you had to thread on the blade and then manually tighten it. When you were done flying and wanted to remove it, you'd have to use a small wrench in order to loosen up the blades again. Now, it literally clips on and off in seconds, no tools needed, and it's just as secure as before. Literally every drone needs something like this. Okay, enough of the physical differences. On to the software. The DJI Phantom 4 still uses the DJI Go app, but it's been updated with 2 new features: Active Track and Tap Fly. Active Track isn't anything new. You simply draw a little square around the object you want to track, and the Phantom 4 will do its best to keep the camera pointed at your subject. It works well enough for someone riding a boosted board through New York, but anything faster and it often loses its subject. For the best results, you need to find a sweet spot where the drone is far enough away that your subject is easily identifiable, but close enough that it's not too small to track. While it does follow your subject, you can still help it out by manually controlling it, so you can preemptively help aim it in the right direction. You can also have it track a stationary object like a parked car or statue, and then simply fly the drone in a circle around it. Tap Fly is a bit more interesting. You literally tap a spot on your screen where you want the Phantom 4 to go, and it will fly to that point. It uses all of the different cameras and sensors on board to create a 3D mapping of the environment, and does its best to not hit anything on the way there. However, this is where we start to feel a bit conflicted. When you tap a destination, it will actively fly over any obstacles in the way. For the most part, it's very good at seeing large objects such as buildings, trees, or mountains in your path. But it's not detailed enough to spot things like power lines or stray branches. It does set a pretty large buffer zone around itself and errs on the side of caution, so overall the feature is pretty safe to use. Our main gripe with it was the lack of control, or at least the feeling of not having control. There's a giant stop button on the app that halts the quadcopter at any time, and you can manually override the controls at any time using the joysticks, but you can never shake the fear of watching it fly straight towards something. And even then, you're using a 2-dimensional screen to direct it in a 3-dimensional environment, something that doesn't translate very easily. It's a very neat party trick, but we still recommend taking the time to fully learn and practice manual controls. Finally, tap fly only works when moving forward. That means very limited mobility and very boring footage. But speaking of footage, I'm sure you've waited long enough. Anthony's been taking the Phantom 4 with him over the past few weekends and put together a little clip of some scenic spots in the Vancouver area. Take a look. I think that sums up the camera pretty well. The footage is sharp, stable, and the shots you can get are just plain stunning. If you want more examples, well, take a look at any recent vlogs by Casey Neistat. Overall, the Phantom 4 is one of the most capable yet easy to operate quadcopters on the market. While some of the features may seem a bit gimmicky, the core failsafes are absolutely bulletproof. If the signal between the Phantom 4 and the remote ever disconnect, it will cancel all previous inputs, hover in place, and return home. It won't just continue on a death march forward. The bottom sensors constantly calculate the distance to the ground, so every takeoff and landing are as smooth as butter. All the obstacle detection systems are available even in manual flight mode, just in case you misjudge your flight path. And we haven't even mentioned flying yet. This thing is just ridiculously stable, easy, and fun to use. It's very predictable, and the feed you get on your remote is the best implementation we've seen yet. The footage is high resolution, smooth, and the feed rarely runs into any problems. We did have one scary moment when it disconnected while flying over a lake, but it stayed in place while the app automatically reconnected. The Phantom 4 is stable enough that Anthony built a drone cage that was just 10 feet tall by 5 feet wide and was able to demo it inside our tech fair all weekend without any major crashes. It did catch the netting twice, but that was when he got a little fancy and tried to show off. Anthony, he means well. Now, the biggest problems we ran into weren't actually because of the quadcopter, it was because of the law. As these aircrafts get cheaper to acquire and easier to fly, you start to get less and less responsible pilots, and that can be a very dangerous thing. Vancouver is a relatively small coastal city, and as a result, the airspace is filled with both large commercial airplanes, helicopters, and seaplanes. These quadcopters aren't small and pose a very dangerous threat to all air traffic as well as people on the ground. At least they don't shit on you like birds. We really hope the legislation gets an update soon, maybe even a licensing program. In its current state, we would hate to see quadcopters like these be banned from use. But don't let that deter you. There are still many great places to fly these things, and if you do your homework properly, you shouldn't get into any trouble either. Thank you for watching, and let us know what you think of the Phantom 4. And yeah, we know you're gonna mention Casey Neistat. It's okay, we love him too. You can check out our previous videos over here. Our Twitter handles are right over here. Comment down below for fans with benefits. And as always, subscribe for more videos like this from NCIX.
Yeah, I bet I could fly that thing indoors.
It's a really bad idea.
No, here, let me show you.
Nope, don't do it. Nope.
Come on.
Nope.